Hi, and welcome to East Meets West. Two women, two cultures looking at female life, and today's subject is why is there a fatal attraction between empaths and narcissists? Hi, it's great to have you here. Today we're going to be looking at the fatal attraction between empaths and narcissists. What is it that draws them together? Why is it such a fatal attraction?
Why do you think narcissists target empaths?
Right. Why do I think narcissists target empaths? There's lots of reasons really. One, because empaths are givers. That's the first thing. They're attracted to that giving because a narcissist is always wanting something for themselves. They're always looking for somebody to feed that, and because empaths are natural givers, they know that they're actually they're gonna get fed by an empath. They know that they've got an easy feeding ground. Really, it's like one of those free buffets. You pay your price, and their price is being with you. Because obviously they think so highly of themselves, so their price that they're paying is actually being with you, being part of your life, and they can continuously feed. So that's probably the best analogy is that that free-for-all buffet service that they have, where you pay your price and go in and eat all you can eat. So that's the first thing. Empaths give. The other thing I would actually say is empaths are also very forgiving. Empaths constantly look for the whys, constantly put themselves in the other person's perspective and try and see it from another side rather than just their own, because they're constantly thinking about other people and how other people feel, and they can feel the hurt and the pain of others as well as the love and the joy, because it's a double-edged sword. We get to feel all those emotions, and we get to feel them deeply in ourselves and within others. Is we actually put ourselves in the perspective, and then usually, because empaths are codependent, which is the major issue, which is what needs to be sorted. That is the one thing every empath should actually take a breath, take a step back and look at their life. Are they codependent? Are they codependent in relationships? Because 9.9% of the time they are, until they learn not to be. You're actually, that codependency, that is very amicable to a narcissist, because they can actually use that and manipulate that so that you become not just codependent but completely dependent on them.
So you mean they can, they know how to manipulate you, they know how to groom you, and then control you afterwards?
Yeah, absolutely. If you've got a codependency and you've got a vision of, which we all do, well, I say we all do, most of us do, especially females, even to this day, little girls are still growing up, looking at bridal magazines, looking at the fairy tales, looking for that happy ever after. And it's part of our makeup, whether we like it or whether we don't. It doesn't matter what culture you're from. It's part of that makeup, and we're always looking for that knight in shining armor. Now, if you've bought into that and you've got codependency as well, you're looking for a certain person. It doesn't matter how successful you are in life, or how well educated, or how great a family network and support and friends that you've got around you. You will have that burning desire in you to meet Mr. Perfect. And this is another thing, when you're going through a healing process, this is another thing that you need to, because first it's the codependency, and then it's cutting the ties with that Mr. Perfect, okay, that ideal of what love is. Because that will all be embroiled with the codependency. So your idea of what love is will also have massive attachments to codependency. And what a narcissist actually does is, and you can see it when you're not in it, you can see it. The questions they ask, the probing that they actually do in those first dates, those first encounters, they are very attentive. And you sit there thinking, oh my God, this man actually listening to me. He's actually wanting to hear what I have to say. He nods appropriately, he smiles appropriately, he laughs, he interjects just a little bit, just to let you know that he's really, really interested. And you take that as, God, he's interested in me. But what he's actually interested in, he's interested in the information that you give, because in all that you say, as we know, there's always the underlying what's going on there. So those first dates, they will very often get you to open up about your previous relationships and your previous pain and your previous hurts. And they will be very caring and very loving and very supportive, and lots of, oh my God, you should have never have to gone through that. Oh, what a horrible person she or he was. Or there will be lots and lots of false empathy on their side. And all the while you're going, oh my God, he gets me, she gets me. This is amazing. I can't believe this is the man of my dreams. But there will, all the time, there will be little signs. Your body, as an empath, your body knows. Your body is kind of like, oh God, it's screaming, saying, no, 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 no. But because you want it so badly, you tell yourself you're overreacting because of a previous relationship, or you're overreacting because how your parents were with you. So you double guess yourself, even though your body's saying, no, don't go here. This is, keep that to yourself. And you've got to remember, a narcissist, whether they're low grade, whether they're high grade, they're charismatic. They're charming.
They are. Yeah.
They're either beautiful or they're handsome, depending on what sex they are. They have the tools, depending on what grade they are, as to how, because they, the different grades, obviously the skills increase. It's like the higher you go up the ladder, the better you get at things. But they have the tools to get you to open up, whether you wanted to or not. So in those first few dates, you are actually giving them all the material that they will use and turn and manipulate against you later on. When that gaslighting's over, all those things that you actually said during those first meetings then come back to hit you, but in a way that makes you out to be the villain, makes you out to be the one that has the problem. It's terrifying and absolutely fascinating at the same time.
It is. They're very clever. I mean, they appear to be clever. Or is it that we're stupid? Who's the clever one here?
No. I have, in my experience, I have not met a narcissist if it is not clever. They're intellectually, they're just so intellectually advanced. They pick up things. It's like the stories they weave. You take the highest grade narcissist, the fabricated stories that they weave, and they make so plausible, and the people that they get on side as well, because a narcissist will always, and that's a really good point, and it's something to kind of make. When you first get involved with a narcissist, they will make a point of wanting to meet your friends, wanting to meet your family, and wanting to make a good impression. And they will be asking, what did they think of me? Did they like me? Or saying to you as the best friend of two in the relationship, things like, it's really important that you like me, because I know they've had a really bad time in the past and you're always looking out for them. So they actually start to befriend your circle. And because they are so charismatic, and because they are usually very proficient liars, it is very easy to be sucked in. The most intelligent people get sucked in, and then there's a lot of guilt attached to that, both from the victim and from their circle of friends. There's a lot of guilt and sometimes a lot of disassociation, because they can't get their heads around the fact that they were sucked in, and they can't cope with it, so they kind of disassociate themselves from the whole situation. And this is where a lot of victims lose a lot of friends. One, through manipulation, because if you actually go into a full-blown relationship with a narcissist, that narcissist will go around your circle of friends and will tell unsurmountable amount of half-truths and lies, so that they are the support system within your crumbling circle. The fact that you're you're crumbling because of them isn't important to them. And people don't see that. People just see them as being supportive while you're going through this hard emotional time. The fact that the emotional torture is coming from them isn't seen, because they're so good at actually making themselves out to be the knight in shining armor, not just to you, but to your circle of friends, to your family. And to be honest, you become completely isolated, and that's what they do. They isolate you, because if you're isolated, if you've got nobody saying to you, hang on a minute, that X, Y, and Z, and alerting you and getting you to step back and think, because what actually happens is a narcissist will never give you breathing space to think. You can see it time and time again. You're never given that space. You're never given the time or left with the energy to actually start thinking for yourself, because they want you completely dependent. They want you in a frenzy of highs and lows, because then you're just going round and round in your head rather than actually being in the moment and being able to think straight. If you talk to any victim when they're going through and afterwards, it's like, am I crazy? They actually get to the point that they don't know what's real and what's not, because there's so many things going on and so many things that are so uncomprehendable that if they actually told their story, it reads like a horror book, something so fantasized that it makes it so unbelievable, because we don't live in a society like that. We don't live, normal people don't do that, but actually they do.
No.
This is what goes on. And of course, that causes the isolation. So then as a victim, you're stuck in that isolation with nowhere and no one to talk to. So you just go into the head. And the more you go into the head and the more that happens, the more crazier you think you're becoming.
Right. And they take advantage of this even more. Like, this is proof to your surroundings. I mean, people that surround you, that you're actually the crazy one. You're the one who's gone out of control.
Yeah. And I think that's the most devastating thing, because you do lose friends, you do lose contact with people, and even when you've got away, even when you're recovering, unless you're talking with another narcissist victim, you've got nobody to talk to. And the other big thing is, it's like living in a war zone. What's effectively happening on a psychological level, it's something that's now called CPTSD. It's a complex post-traumatic stress disorder. You can't treat it while somebody's still going through it. You can only teach them mechanisms and ways of actually minimizing it, because effectively what's happening is, on a psychological level, you're living in that constant zone of danger, that constant zone of high alert. And over time, that does have a psychological effect. That does affect your mental health and well-being. But people don't realize, if somebody's physically abusive with you, you see bruises, and people can see that, and they can be compassionate about that. But it's the same over with all mental health. People do not have an understanding because it cannot be seen. And if they've never experienced it, they can't empathize with it a lot of the time. They can say, oh, well, that's terrible, I hope you get better soon. But it doesn't work like that, because you have to reprogram your whole way of thinking. Because if you've been in a relationship with a narcissist for a prolonged time, there will be programming within you that you take on that you believe is yours. Things like your own passions and your own loves, your own hobbies, which will give you that time out. But the narcissists don't want you that time out, because they don't want you clearly thinking. So it will start very, very slowly. It will be things like, oh, you're going to do that. I thought we'd spend the time together. So they're making you feel guilty, and they're making you feel wanted. So you've got the two things going on there, and you think, oh God, yeah, we haven't spent much time together. We'll spend some time together. So you are thinking that you're getting prime time with your loved one, but actually what's happening is they are taking you away from your passion and your loves. They're taking you away from your individuality, again, isolation, and again, stopping that space for clear thinking. And then later on, as that progresses, it's you always doing that. You never spend time with me. So then your love, your passion, your hobby then becomes an issue within your relationship. And because you're an empath and you want to keep the peace and you want to be able to please everybody, because that's another big thing of empaths, you'll very often find that they're people pleasers until they learn not to be. They're then take on the energy, because they'll feel the energy of the aggravation from the other partner. Oh, you're doing your passion, your hobby. That's irritating me. I thought we were going to spend time together. So then again, you don't do your passion, your hobby, because you want to keep the peace. You don't like that energy of irritation. And then it becomes a battlefield. And then you get to the point, because if that continues, what will happen is you psychologically associate your hobby, your love, your passion with negative, heavy, irritated energy. So you don't love it anymore. You don't have a passion for it anymore. So you leave it behind. So you don't have that space. And that will happen through everything that you actually do for yourself, until the point that you don't do anything for yourself anymore. And because you're not doing anything for yourself, because you're not feeding your passion, your loves, your hobbies, your soul needs, you then start to become devoid, and then you start gaining and attaining fulfillment from theirs, and that gives them ultimate control. You're completely dependent then.
And they can switch, like it's like they have the switch. They can switch on and off whatever they give you. They have total control.
Absolutely.
Although in a normal relationship, you're expecting to get love, affection, understanding all the time, not when they feel like giving it to you. Right?
Yeah. There's a huge difference between a compatible sharing relationship. There's not codependency going on. There's an understanding that sometimes you're going to be busy. Sometimes you're going to need to do your own thing. Sometimes you're going to need your own space. And it's not, oh, you don't love me, because this is what a narcissist will, oh, you don't love me because you don't want to spend the time with me. In a normal compatible relationship, they're quite happy for you to do your own thing, and you're quite happy for them to do their own thing. In a narcissistic relationship, if you try and do your own thing, you're not being sharing, you're not being loving, you're not being caring. But when they want to do their own thing, when they want to, go off and you say anything because you've experienced that, so you say to them, oh, well, I thought we were going to do this, it's then turned around with you being obsessive, needy, not trusting, and all these kind of things that weren't even in your head. You were just kind of like, well, you said I needed to spend time to you, so we had some quality time. Now I'm saying the same to you, but now I'm getting all this. It's this psychological barrage all the time. But again, because you're an empath, you step back and go, oh, am I being needy? Am I being unfair? You're not kind of saying, well, actually, you said this. We don't do that. As empaths, we don't do that. And narcissists know that, which is what makes an empath a really good target. Because the first thing that pops into an empath's head is, am I? If somebody says something negative about our personality, we don't defend ourselves. We step back and go, oh, am I? Because we're always trying to improve ourselves. We're always trying to better ourselves. We're always trying to be a better person and to evolve our souls. So we instantly go into, am I? We review, am I? And if we're told that we are sufficiently, we actually take it on to be true.
Can we say that empaths also lack self-love, those who are suffering with codependency?
It's usually, there's usually somewhere between the 0 and 7, they would have learned that they're not important, and that usually, if they've not come, and it's very interesting because actually that kind of brings us on to, because if you're an empath and you're not in a narcissistic or had a narcissistic love relationship, for sure you would have had a narcissistic parent relationship. So there's always a narcissist in an empath's life somewhere along the line. Between 0 and 7, you would have developed I'm not important belief. That could be anything. You could have the most loving parents in the world and you will still take that on. It could be from just a small remark, a situation that to anybody else wouldn't make one iota of difference, but because you're empath, because you feel things so deeply, you actually take it in and you actually make it your own, and that becomes your building block. So your building block is I'm not important. I'm not important. Right. And that I'm not important builds into a lack of self-love and a lack of self-worth and a lack of self-value. It could be all of them, it could be one of them, but it's always there. And that also helps to create the codependency. But codependency is learned. Codependency is from parents. It's from watching. It's watching and learning the dynamics of your parents' relationships. And there will be codependency there. But yet there is always, with an empath, a belief system. There's always a lack of worth, value, or self-love.
When do we get our wake-up calls? Like when, how do we wake up when it gets really bad? Or is it that we start to question things or talk to friends? How does it happen? When do we get our wake-up call?
Oh, it depends how badly you want the love. It depends how badly you want the love. There's so many contributing factors. Was it your first love? And did your parents say, I don't want you seeing him? Because then you've got all the dynamics of that first love and being told you can't have something. And you know, if you're a teenager, we all know what teenagers are like. Teenagers cannot be told that they cannot have anything, and even when they know that they've made a mistake, it's very hard to admit that they've made a mistake. And then it's very hard to then reach out and go, I've made a mistake, help me. So it just really it's very dependent on the circumstances. It's very dependent on the family dynamics. It's very dependent on the grade of narcissist you find yourself with, because there's different grades. And it's very dependent on whether you actually do any self-development work. It usually a wake-up call starts when you start thinking, actually, my life isn't functioning the way I want it. And you may not have an iota of an idea that your partner is in fact a narcissist. You may just think he's a selfish bi, or or she's a selfish bi, and you may not have a clue what narcissist is. You may have never come across it. You may not even know that you're empath. You just feel that you just feel things very deeply, and you think everybody else does it. It's when you start actually reviewing your life and going, actually, this isn't functioning the way I want it. And we can all do that at different times. We all have, it's an internal thing. It's like an alarm clock that goes off, and it's like it starts to ring, and you're like, okay, something's not working for me. I don't know what it is. And it usually starts off that we don't know what it is. Something's not, but it's not working for me. Something has to change. And you start then looking around for courses or talking to people, or even work related. I mean, some people have had their wake-up call through work, that they've gone for a promotion, and doing that promotion meant that they had to do some kind of self-development course. And as they're going through that self-development course, it gets them questioning themselves. It's that questioning, it's that internal questioning. And then you're kind of like, well, no, that don't add up. No, that don't add up. And then you start, it's like your eyes open wider, and you start seeing things that have always been there, but you've never seen it before.
Okay, and you say that there are grades, there are different grades of narcissism. How do you know that you're with a healthy narcissist or a toxic one?
They can be toxic to you. They're not toxic to themselves. Although that can be argued, because they generally don't have a very happy life, especially the high grade ones. They're emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually in turmoil. So yeah, it could be argued that they are toxic to themselves as well. We all need a kind of I get very frustrated when I kind of look at the internet, and I look at Facebook, and I look at all the medias, and it's like they demonize narcissists. And yes, a lot of things that happen within a narcissistic relationship are bad. You can actually describe them as pure evil. At times they are terrifying. People go through emotional hell. They are left with complex post-traumatic disorder, for goodness sake. So yes, it is. They're still a human being. It's narcissism in itself is personality disorder, the same as bipolar, the same as depression. It's actually taken that on board. It's almost like social media and things, it's almost like a witch hunt. And as a spiritual being, as a spiritual person that is trying to evolve my soul, I find that really hard, because we are all one. At the end of the day, there are human beings. Are they human beings that you should put yourself in the line of fire with? No, especially the top grade ones, because they are dangerous. Let's not mess around here. High grade narcissists, people with high grade narcissist personality disorder are dangerous. So do you stay away from them? Absolutely. Do we demonize them? No. Do we set out a witch hunt? No. They're still human beings. They're in turmoil too. They are suffering a personality disorder, the same as somebody that's bipolar or schizophrenic. And I really get annoyed. I really get frustrated when I actually see this kind of witch hunt going on. Do we need to look after ourselves? Yes. Do we need to know what to look out for? Yes. Are empaths pray? Yes, absolutely. All of those things. but it's our responsibility to actually learn and to take responsibility for the part that we play as well, with regards to codependency, with regards to wanting that happy ever after kind of love, those unrealistic love dreams, for not actually setting boundaries and actually learning our energetic systems. We have that responsibility. We need to take responsibility for that. Narcissism exists in all of us, and we should have, and this is another problem with empaths, is they're below the grade. So if you go up through the grading, because of they're below the grade of narcissism, there is a level of narcissism that is neutral, and that level is when you're able to set your boundaries and to say no and to actually put yourself first. The problem is we grow up in a society that if we actually put ourselves first, we're then labeled with being selfish, but it's not being selfish. Selfish is when you do things just because you want to, with no thought or care or love for anybody else. Actually applying self-love and actually setting boundaries and actually doing what is right for you is actually selfless, because you're filling up your cup. Then you're actually allowing yourself to be the true version of who you are, your authentic self, and then you can actually give so much more. You can give freely, without conditions, without expectations. So we need that neutral level of narcissism that allows us to say, no, it's not right for me. There are other levels of narcissism that go up that you can have relationships with, and very fruitful relationships with, but only if you're not codependent, only if you're able to say no, only if you're able to set those boundaries. And then those relationships are very good, because you can actually teach each other. It's bringing the yin and yang, that light and darkness together. It's that bonding. You can have a very fruitful relationship and actually give to each other, teach each other, because if you're narcissistic neutral and you're an empath, you've got all that compassion, you've got that ability to naturally stand in that other person's perspective and to see that side, and you can actually teach that to the narcissist, and the narcissist can teach you to hold your boundaries and to keep to your boundaries. But obviously those are the lower grade narcissists. When you start to get to the higher grade, it's impossible. And if you get to a top grade, just stay away, because they are seriously dangerous characters. They border on the line, or they are also sociopaths, and you really, it's a no-no area. But I think it's fair to say that a lot of people just at the moment are just clumping in. It's like narcissist is a new word, it's the new label, and everybody's being clumped in with it. And no, it's not true. There are different layers, there are different levels, and you can have a fruitful and abundant relationship with a narcissist, a low-grade narcissist, as long as you are independent and not codependent, and as long as you set those boundaries.
And you've answered my next question, which was going to be, is it possible to live with a narcissist? Because if you go on the internet and then you find all the videos and everyone talking about getting away, planning your escape, it's not going to work. But then you've mentioned that it could be done with low-grade ones, like the ones that are not.
Yeah, it can be done. It can be done. I mean, obviously, when you get to the higher levels, when they are wanting to completely control you and manipulate you, but there are some low-grade narcissists. You can look when you understand about narcissist behavior and narcissistic personality disorder, you can actually sit there and people watch and couple, and to be honest, I love doing it. Sat in a plaza of an evening and just listening to couples and the dynamics, and you can actually tell the narcissist, but you can also start to tell the levels of narcissism that's actually there. So they're a narcissist, so they're going to push to get their own way, but if they're low level and there's true love there, then as long as you push back and go, no, actually, no, this is important to me, they will still have that flexibility. It's when you get to the higher levels and there is no flexibility and they want that total control. But I think it's fair to point out, and I need to point this out because I don't want to give people the idea that especially empaths, that they can have relationships with narcissists. As an empath, as anybody, empath or not, you can only have a relationship with a narcissist if there's no codependency, and you know what you're getting yourself into, and you know the tricks, you know the games, you know the twists that they're able to do. What you will have to actually learn to do if you want the relationship to work is you have to learn to twist it back, so they can actually see. Because if you ask a low-grade narcissist, are they manipulative, they will say no, because they don't understand that they are being manipulative. It's just a natural mode for them. So you have to be that reflection, so that they can actually see what they've done is manipulative. Because when they actually receive it, they know it's manipulative. You have to, it's almost like a game. And I'm not one for saying play games in relationships, because I don't believe you should play games. But if you're in a relationship with a low-grade narcissist and you do love them and you want to make it work, then you do have to use tactics to actually be able to reflect back to them their behavior, so they can understand that actually, yes, they do that. Because unless they can see it themselves that they're doing it, they're not going to stop it. What you need to do in any relationship is to see that it's growing. And that doesn't matter whether you're in a narcissistic relationship or whatever relationship. For a relationship to work and to continue to work, you have to see year-on-year growth. Because relationships, even the most loving relationships, are hard work. So you have to have those growth moments that sustain you when you're having those kind of like, oh, moments. Really, do I need to put up with this? So yeah, you have to really understand what a narcissist is. You have to know the tactics that they use, and you have to be willing to actually reflect them back to them, so that they understand, not in an aggressive way, not in a confrontive way, because you confront a narcissist and they will go into complete defense mode. Because narcissists, whatever level, has confidence issues, and if you start to attack them, if you start to confront them, they will automatically go into defense mode, in which case you just end up having a blazing row that doesn't solve anything, and everybody becomes emotional, and it's just upsetting, and it's bad vibes. But if you can, with love and laughter, just reflect back the behavior that you're not happy with, that was manipulative, that was narcissistic, if you can do that in a loving, joking, but poignant manner, so that they can actually see that without feeling threatened, they will then, if there's true love there, it's like any relationship, nobody's going to change if they don't love you. They have to want to change it, and that love has to exist normally for them to want that change. But they will then work to change that. Now, are they going to change overnight? No, because it's a learned behavior that they've had all their life. So you're going to have to be tolerant, you're going to have to be patient, and you're going to have to probably reflect it back more than once. Well, that's all for today, folks. Thank you for joining us. Please leave your reviews and tuning on An Hour to Empower, East Meets West. Bye for now.